I recently did a video and it caused a little bit of a controversy, which of course means I'm doing my job. I think usually my videos are defending my standards and really speaking to the prodigals who've gone off and left their vows. And the video that I'm talking about is one where I was actually talking to the standards this time, and it said, maybe you are the problem. And I heard that it quite caused a stir because many standards are saying, it is not my fault. Well, okay, so let me clarify. That video, and there's two things I want to say. That video was designed to say, look, it is not your fault your spouse left. Most of the time they leave, they're having affairs, or even an emotional affair, and they're blaming everything on you. That is not your fault. You can't control whether or not they leave. And even if 90% of the fault was theirs, we all acknowledge, at least most of us acknowledge, my spouse is leaving kind of illuminated some of the faults that I had. And I'm going to use this period of time where we are apart to become a better version of myself. So, corrected. Christine Bacon is never saying your prodigal is your fault. It's your fault they left. We all have faults. But most of the time, the prodigal that chooses to leave the marriage, divorce the marriage, annul the marriage, it's on them. And they're the ones that have to answer to God for that. The clarification comes here is when I said, maybe you are the problem with them coming back. Coming back is what all of us hope that our spouses will do. But most standers have come to this place where they realize, you know what? I am forgiving of my spouse. I do want him or her to come back. No matter what, I will take them, whether they're clean, whether they're dirty, whether they're messy. They are my spouse, and my door is always open. The clarification comes when I said, maybe you are the problem because you're not allowing your spouse to feel as if they are welcome because you're still referring to them as the adulteress. Okay, maybe they committed adultery, but if you define someone by their sin, you are the problem. I had an affair 40 years ago. Am I an adulteress? No. I am a woman, a loving wife, faithful, who committed a mistake of adultery decades ago. And I will not be defined by that title because that is not who I am. It's a good person, made a bad choice. Your spouse, if you want them to come back, obviously you think that they're a good person and they made a bad mistake. And quite possibly the reason you had a hard time with this video is it was really sticking a knife in your heart and pointing out maybe you really are the problem. If you can't even get past saying that your spouse is an adulteress, then you really are the problem. You need to recognize your own sins. Again, this is not blaming your spouse's departure on you. But prodigals, let's phrase it this way. You have a prodigal and he or she has recognized the error of their ways. And in their heart, they're even saying to God, I want to go back. I would go back. I'm just humiliated. I'm embarrassed. I don't know. If you want me to come back, make a way. Let's just assume. I'm not saying that's your spouse, but let's assume. And then that person looks for any sign that they are welcome. But then when they come, there's two different groups of standards. There's the standards that say, come home. You're always welcome. And they're like, well, let me apologize. Just like the prodigal son did. And the standard spouse, like the prodigal father, like, don't worry about it. Just come. The door is open. I'm just glad to have you back. What I'm referring to is if you are acting as if I'm barring the door, you cannot enter until you bow down before me and say, you're right. I made the mistake. I'm awful. You're the perfect spouse. You're better. And I'm being exaggerating because, again, I've got a couple people in mind who I have spoken to who I believe bar the door and wait for their spouse to beg and grovel, to say, I am an adulteress. I'm so sorry. Could you ever forgive me? Because you're so awesome. Forgive my attitude. But if you were to look at yourself clearly, some of you act like that. And even if your spouse wants to come home, they're not willing to grovel to come through a spouse like you who clearly hasn't learned your mistakes. If you're still thinking that they need to come and admit their flaws, you are not acting like the father in the story of the prodigal son. If you're saying, yeah, I want to hear it. I want you to tell me. I want you to show me. The pure act of your spouse coming home is a showing you. I know this video is just, again, not going to come off right, but who would I be if I only defended one side and acted as if our prodigals were completely at fault? Our prodigals are children loved by God too. Some have made mistakes. Some have been nasty and mean. Some have been, I'm not even going to begin to tell you what my husband was like when we were apart, but I will tell you, I wasn't coming back to him in the state he was in because he was nasty. He was ugly. He was throwing my mistakes in my face. It wasn't until he came to me and said, I just want you back. Let's not worry about that. He didn't ask for an apology. He didn't ask for me to explain anything. He no longer threw my sins in my face. He just said, I just want to get back with you and I love you. Can we do this? So maybe this clarification video made it better. Maybe it made it worse. But again, if you are the one that's being ruffled, your feathers, you might want to look introspectively. Because before I did this video, I did check with plenty of standers that I know and said, did that video bother you? And they all said, no, I knew exactly what it meant. And I knew that I just needed to make sure my spouse knew that my door was still open and that I'm not judging him or not judging her. And that I love them, and that I have learned to be a better person. If you are the one that's saying, oh, Christine's got it wrong, it's not me who's waiting for my spouse to come home. You may be waiting for a long time if you keep that attitude. But I do beg you to ask the Lord, show me. Show me. Christine may be 100% incorrect on me. But if there's an off chance that she's right, I just want to know. I don't care about what Christine Bacon thinks, Lord. I just care about what you think. Do I have the proper standards heart? Am I forgiving of my spouse? Am I holding it over his head? Am I being judgmental? Am I making myself better than him or her? Just ask the Lord that. No one has to be there when you're praying it. But if you can't even find it in yourself to pray that, again, check yourself. Might be a reason. All right. Tough video. Who would I be if I only did the nice ones, right? Call me Christine Controversy. But I do love you. I just want your marriage reconciled. I want your kids to see a reconciled marriage. Let me know your thoughts. Sure you will. I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. Thanks for watching another Bacon Bit. And don't forget, no matter how dark life seems, please live your life sunny side up. There's so much to be grateful for.